The following is a Cable 14 special presentation.
The city of Hamilton is situated upon the traditional territories of the Erie, Neutral, Huron-Wendat, Haudenosaunee, and Mississaugas. This land is covered by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant, which was an agreement between the Haudenosaunee and the Anishinaabe to share and care for the resources around the Great Lakes. We further acknowledge that this land is covered by the Between the Lakes Purchase in 1792 between the Crown and the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. Today, the city of Hamilton is home to many Indigenous people from across Turtle Island, known as North America. And we recognize that we must do more to learn about the rich history of this land so that we can better understand our roles as residents, neighbors, partners, and caretakers.
Hello and welcome to Our Hamilton, Our Vote, the 2022 municipal election debates presented live by Cable 14 in partnership with the Flamborough Review. I'm Mike Fortune and I will be your moderator. For this debate, we have invited all of the candidates for councillor in Ward 15 to be here. With us are Zobia Joed, Ted McMeekin, Chris Pera, and Samara Wakar. There is one more candidate in Ward 15, but Robert Kunish did not respond to any of our invitations. Our format includes 2 minutes each for the candidates to introduce themselves. Then our local media panel will be posing questions. Viewers, if you're at home watching live, please tweet us at Cable14 or email election@cable14.com to share any questions you would like us to ask of these candidates, and we will try to get to as many as possible. And finally, we will wrap up the hour with an open forum for the candidates to question and respond to each other. All the candidates were provided copies of the debate format well in advance, and I will be doing my best to keep us on track with what's expected for each section. With that said, let's get things started with our 2-minute introductory statements. If needed, candidates, you will get a 10-second warning before I call time. Up first, Zobia Joed.
Waterdown is a growing, dynamic, and diverse community. I've been a Waterdown resident for 10 years and a Hamiltonian for 30 years. This is home. This is the same place where my 2 kids started their education, the same place where my daughter landed her first job, the same place where we lost a brilliant young 10-year-old girl that was stuck and killed in 2017 because of the bypass isn't yet complete. This is heartbreaking. No parent shall ever witness a loss of their child. This is what drives my passion in running for council. I went to McMaster University and I currently work at Faculty of Engineering at McMaster University. I'm known to get things done. This is a hallmark of my professional and my volunteer contributions for Hamilton. While I have been honored with the Order of Hamilton Women of Distinction Award and McMaster Alumni Hamilton Impact Award, for me it is not about the recognition. It is about giving back to the community, a value instilled in me by my parents. A legacy of my father, who I helped nurse in his final months of terminal cancer earlier this year. Over the past few months, I have met with hundreds of you. Here's what you told me, what's important to you. This is what I will fight for. Completion of the Waterdown bypass. We cannot have unsafe roads and worsening traffic congestion. Keeping taxes low. We can no longer afford to pay for more for fewer services. Fiscal responsibility. Tax dollars must be spent wisely. Support for our small businesses and our farmers. Enhance police services, including their work to reduce speeding through Carlisle, Millgrove, and Center Road. We need to get all this done and much more. But we also need fresh voices and talented people for council. I'm the choice for change in Waterdown and Flamborough. I'm committed to working for you the only way I know how, day in and day out. On October 24th, please vote for me, Dr. Zobia Javed, for a fresh start. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, candidate. We will now continue on to candidate Ted McMeekin.
Yes, thanks, Mike. I just want to begin by thanking Cable 14 for doing this thing, and to all the viewers for tuning in. My name is Ted McMeekin. The very best political advice I ever received was from the late great Sterling Hunt. He was a beef farmer up in Linden, and he said, "Ted, if you want to get elected, tell the people what's broke and how you're going to fix it." He also added, "And be positive, because nobody wants to be led by a pessimist." That was good advice then, and it's good advice today. Over the years, I've developed another interesting perspective. I think as important as it is getting things fixed, it's also important that we name the things that we cannot live without. Case in point, if we can't breathe, nothing else matters. If we don't have clean, drinkable water, we're in real trouble. If we can't grow food to feed ourselves, there's a good chance we're going to go hungry. If we can't house people, particularly through a pandemic, then shame on us. And importantly, if we can't find creative ways to bring people together, to work together, to build strong, healthy, caring communities, then we're going to be finding it more difficult to learn to care for and love one another. I'm pleased to be here, and I look forward to the debate with my worthy opponents.
Candidate McMeekin, thank you very much for that. Moving on is now candidate Chris Para.
Hi, thanks for having us here today. My name is Chris Para, and I'm running to be your next Ward 15 councillor. I love this city. My wife and I have chosen to make it our home, and our 2 children were born here. I love the pathways, trails, waterfalls, the spots to eat and shop, and I'm constantly blown away by the potential of both the people and the city itself. I'm a PMP certified project manager with a professional background in market research and a degree in political science and history. I'm running for Ward 15 councillor because I see the potential of our city and our people, and I want to help our city realize that potential using input from fellow community members, experts, and city staff. Hamilton is a diverse city, and all voices deserve to be heard. I will ensure that initiatives like Hamilton's Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan, which takes on difficult issues, including racism, violence, homelessness, and discrimination, continue to receive the funding and support that they need. I support the urban boundary remaining as is. Farmers feed cities, and while you can build more houses, you can't build more farmland. With this in mind, I would encourage more building development with a focus on densification and affordable family-friendly housing. We need to take a multi-level approach, which includes working with the province as well as organizations like City Housing Hamilton and local developers to find innovative solutions to the crisis. I would continue to fund the Vision Zero initiative, ensuring that our goals of safer streets are met, and build new roads and infrastructure under the Complete Streets paradigm, which focuses on improving road safety for pedestrians, cyclists, and drivers throughout neighborhoods, as well as increasing neighborhood livability. My top 3 priorities are safer streets and more livable communities for our families, getting a recreation center built in Ward 15 to provide better access to city services and help cultivate a stronger sense of community, and supporting the school board in their efforts to get a new elementary school built in Waterdown. If elected, I plan on taking an egoless, pragmatic, and data-driven approach to building consensus, finding common ground, and achieving shared priorities. I want to avoid the divisiveness that we've seen stand in the way of progress. As your Ward 15 councillor, I pledge to work with all stakeholders, no matter how big or small, to find solutions to the many issues facing our community. As we grow, we must do so with an eye on sustainability, longevity, and quality of life. Thank you.
Candidate Para, thank you for that. And our final candidate tonight with their opening statement is Sumera Wakar.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I would like to begin by thanking Cable 14, Hamilton Spectator, and our media personnel in attendance. My name is Sumera Wakar, and I have been living in Hamilton Ward 15 in the beautiful village of Waterdown since past 7 years. I am married with a wonderfully supportive husband and a proud mom of 3 beautiful children. I look forward to see them graduate from Waterdown High School soon. As your fellow neighbor, I drive on the same road, visit same markets, and enjoy the same hiking trails and witness the same issues all of us equally affected with. I have a bachelor's degree in computer science and currently working with Hippie Halton and serve families in needs. I also worked in collaboration with United Ways and Region of Halton to help families in need. Throughout my several professional development trainings and experience, I have learned the real nodes of the community by the deep participation at grassroots community level, involvement in service and engagement. As an immigrant woman of color from Pakistan, arriving to Canada in 2011, put me through a long, strong, but empowering journey of achievement as a community mobilizer, blogger, and volunteer. I see myself growing older in Waterdown, serving the community as my home. I prioritize giving back to my community as my responsibility, and in past several years, I have been serving in many stakeholders table, volunteer consistently from Hamilton Police, serve in a school council for many years. I also have done several fundraising programs in the community and also a part of a new Muslim community center in Waterdown that established the first mosque in Waterdown. Affordability, accessibility, and availability of better infrastructure, roads, walkable, safe neighborhood are every resident's basic rights. And I want to work as your voice at the council table to get these rights done. I would like to ensure that your voices are heard, your issues are tackled, and your solutions are provided. Remember, me being there means that you are at the table. Please vote on October 24th, me as a councillor. Thank you.
Candidate Wakar, and to all of our candidates, thank you very much for those opening statements. And now the fun begins. We will be bringing in our local media panel. With us for this debate tonight are Matt Christie for the Flamborough Review and Al Sweeney. He's back. He just can't get enough of us here. He's from CHCH. As usual, each of our reporters, they will be choosing a candidate to answer a question, and then the other candidates can also respond. Please, candidates, make sure you indicate if you'd like to get involved in the conversation. All of your responses should be limited to 1 minute. I'll give a warning when time has run out. Our first question comes from Mac Christie.
First question's for Ted. Area rating has been an ongoing issue for the city of Hamilton, and the on-demand bus service has caused headaches for many residents in the community. What is your position on area rating, and what would you like to see in terms of transit for the community?
Well, thanks very much, Mac. I am in favor of maintaining area rating. The simple truth of the matter is when municipalities were created, it was based on and predicated on the assumption that you get what you pay for and you pay for what you get. If you don't have a water service and you're on septic, you don't pay a water sewer surcharge, and that makes sense. If you don't have reliable convenient transit, you ought not to be paying an equitable cost for an inequitably provided service. So that's important. As for the transit itself, I know there's been a traffic transportation study done, and there have been certain percentages of where buses will go, presumably after the LRT is complete and the B-line buses are freed up. I think we need to have a lot of consultation on that in the community.
If you'd like to respond to that, candidates, let me know. Anybody? Yes, candidate.
I would just like to add on in terms of the transit system. I think one thing that we definitely need here is the connectivity from our main Waterdown village back to downtown core Hamilton. So as Ted mentioned that we might have more bus services or buses that will become available, I think it's important to have that connectivity so we're connected with the rest of Hamilton, and that will also solve some of the issues around ridership that we have currently within our Waterdown East Flamborough. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I don't see any other candidates responding, so candidate McMeekin, if you would like to have the final word, you're welcome to.
Well, I appreciate Zubaya's comments. The breakdown from the study, I think, was to have down the road 35% of the bus transportation entirely within East Flamborough, Waterdown, Carlisle. I get a lot of people up in Carlisle complaining that it would be really beneficial if kids could hop a bus down to Waterdown where they like to hang out. So we need a lot more consultation on this. And I think there may come a time when we look at area rating differently, but now's not the time. We need to get the LRT built, and from that get the B-line buses freed up.
Candidate McMeekin, thank you very much. So we have to move on. Candidate Para, if you guys want to get involved for the next question, please get indicate a little bit earlier. I told you he's back. He just can't get enough of us. From CHCH, it's Mr. Al Sweeney. Nice to have you back.
Thanks. It's always good to be here. It's a lot of fun,
Welcome,
especially Waterdown. There's a lot of great issues in Waterdown. So, Zobia, I'd like to address this first question to you. You referred to it in your opening remarks, the issue of taxes. It's one of the number one issues in Waterdown. There seem to be a lot of them. If you break down what people tell you, it seems the Waterdown taxes are more than $2,000 a year more than taxes in, say, Burlington next door. And one of the problems is high taxes. The other problem is people don't feel they're getting any services for their taxes. What can you do about taxes, or what can you do about services? How would you approach this?
First of all, thank you for your great question. And as you exactly said, I kind of pinpointed it in my introductory statement. One of the key things that I am totally in support of, keeping taxes as low as possible. We can no longer afford to pay more for less services. And we don't have the issue with money. I think we have the money, we have the spending problem. And that's what we have to start worrying about. We are spending millions and billions of dollars in terms of Shadow Creek spill cleanup or investigations dealing with, I will say, Red Hills. So I think there is money, but we just need to start prioritizing where that money needs to spend and start putting more money towards our services.
Candidate McMeekin?
Yes, I'd like to build on what Zobia said. When amalgamation happened some 21 years ago, the average tax increase throughout Flamborough was almost 30%. And I think people are still reeling from that. The issue of taxation itself and high taxes, the fundamental problem is that we have a industrial commercial to residential tax ratio of 14% industrial commercial to 86% residential. In Toronto, it's closer to 50-50, which means a house of equal value in Waterdown in Toronto, they pay 38% less in taxes. So we need to really hone in and focus on the need to change that ratio by being very supportive of the business and industrial expansion and jobs in our community.
Candidate Para, I see you indicated.
Yeah, undeniably our taxes are high in Waterdown, but the biggest issue with that is whether we're getting the return on investment that we need in spending. If we want services, if we want nice things, we're going to have to spend some of the money. If we want necessary things, it will cost money. But that does mean we need to get those things in return. So we need to work with the city to start getting the services built out to us.
Thank you for that response. Would you like to get involved? Yes, please.
I kind of agree with what Chris is saying. In order to get more basic needs or necessities for the community, we have to spend money. But yes, we have to control the tax amount. As the first candidate said, we are trying our best to control it. But as the council have funds, we can see they are spending on the other things. So we have to control the budget in order to spend and lower the tax for our community.
Candidate Wakar, thank you very much. The question was originally proposed to you, Zobia, so Candidate Joed, if you would like to have the final word.
Definitely, I would say people cannot afford to pay more. We need to strategize how the taxpayers' money will be utilized for our community. We can no longer continue supporting others in Hamilton if we cannot meet our basic needs. So I think it's about time that we build on our community by supporting our services and using that taxpayers' money for our services. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Our viewers at home, they've been watching on various devices online or their televisions, and thank you so much. And we are getting questions submitted by them once again, and they've been tweeting us at Cable 14 or emailing election@cable14.com. This question comes in asking, there is currently a proposal for the City of Hamilton to host the 2030 Commonwealth Games. Would you support a public vote so residents can have a say in making this decision? And I do see that this question is being directed at candidate Para to start.
Yeah, I think with issues like that, I'd absolutely support a vote put to citizens. While it is nice to have things like that in your city, I think we have more pressing issues, frankly, and there's better areas that we could spend the money. There's people who need it more. Like we've all noted, there's services that need to be brought up to speed. So I think it's the right type of thing to put to a vote. If the people of Hamilton decide that this is something that would benefit our city, great. But I think a lot of us see that maybe that's not what we should spend our money on right now. And if that's how it goes, then we don't have it here. But yeah, I think any direct democracy is generally a good step.
Thank you for that. Any other candidate like to jump in? Yes, candidate McMeekin.
Yeah, I think it's important to understand that there's a protocol in our nation where at least once a year the two senior levels of government participate in a major event. It may be a World Cup soccer gig or the Commonwealth Games. The next Commonwealth Games will fall on the 100-year anniversary of the first, which were held at the old Civic Stadium, as people may or may not know. I think how we move forward on that depends very much on the group that's working on that project to be very clear about how it's going to be funded. My current understanding is that there's been no request of the city for funding assistance, that it will be largely private sector and the two senior levels of government. We need to look at the kind of legacy that games like the Commonwealth Games could leave behind, and I think in that sense I'm very open-minded to it, and I just want to get more information before we make a final decision.
Thank you for that response. Yes, candidate Wakar.
My kind of answer is if we have like enough budget, yes, we can do that. But again, we have more priorities and we have more things to do for this fund. And I'm like Ted said, I'm not against like those kind of projects come to our city, but still we have to look in our budget. If we have enough money to get those things done, then we should move on and do that.
Thank you to our candidates for responding to that question. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. Final word will be going to you. My apologies. Oh, sorry, Chris. Final word will be going to you. You had the original question. I'm sorry.
I guess if we're funding, regardless of where the funding comes from, things that tend to put Hamilton on the map or bring attention to Hamilton, I'd rather see money like that put to things like our film or entertainment industry, where we're still putting Hamilton on the map. We may even have a greater reach through that, and it helps build our industry, helps spread also just the beauty that Hamilton is, the scenery it has, projects a little bit of almost like a soft power for our city. I think, if we're gonna put money into projects that spread the word, I'd rather fund an industry, not just have something that's here and then gone.
Candidate Para, thank you very much for that. And again, to our candidates, if you'd like to get involved, please raise your hand a little sooner into the question and we will get to you. Time for another round of questions from our wonderful media panel. Matt Christie, he's back.
My question's for Samara. The ongoing growth in the community has caused headaches for residents in terms of traffic and other infrastructure issues. As councillor, what would you do to manage the growth and address the infrastructure deficit in the community?
Thank you, Mac, for the question. For the infrastructure, yes, it is a huge problem in our whole ward, and the roads are a mess, and the fundings, I'm sure the fundings are not using properly on those kind of infrastructure. I would like to do first have to sit with the high stakeholders and work out on the funds for the infrastructure. We have to plan before getting new builders to come in our town and start overburden with the housing and with no roads, with no planning. So I have to work on that first.
Candidate McMeekin?
Yes, just building on the answer and the question, I think the 3 years that has been invested in developing the secondary plan has been very useful in our community, particularly as relates to the Waterdown Heritage District. By the way, the largest heritage district in Hamilton at 140 residences. That is very, very important. The whole issue of traffic calming involves much more than just the bypass. And I want to give a shout out to the current councillor and Hamilton City Council for responding positively to the numerous requests across the city to reduce the speed limits in residential areas to 40 km per hour and in school zones to 30. That was requested all over, and they responded positively, and I'm pleased they did.
Yes.
I think just to build on what Ted mentioned, I think what we need to do is we need to have a complete review of all the streets to have a better understanding which parts of our roads needs to become more safe. Yes, bypass is not the only thing. We have to look into increasing our police services as well. For that, we obviously need dedication in terms of dollar amount dedicated to the police, have other things ready in place. You know, where do we need traffic lights? Where do we need more pedestrian safety? So yes, as we're growing, we need to have that infrastructure in place to make our community safe so we can raise our families in a safe manner. Thank you.
Candidate Para.
Yeah, so one of the things I'd like to do is we'll have a complete streets review done for our ward. So far, I believe it's only been done for wards 3, 8, and 14, if I remember correctly. But it's absolutely a first step that we can take to immediately improve safety on our roads. Hopefully at a lower cost, not completely tearing anything up or starting over. But there's a lot of great options under that paradigm. And I think day one, we just need to have that review done. We already have the Watered Down Transportation Master Plan that has a lot of plans in it. It's very long. Anyways, I was reading it through it last night. And the plans are there. A lot of the plans are there. Like we've all said, it just needs to happen. We just need to get these things to happen.
Thank you for that. Candidate Wakar, final word to you.
Yes, I would like to say that we have to take immediate infrastructure funding action to improve the roads, and we have to use our current funds, like around 3.4 billion funds in that infrastructure shortfall in order to create a multi-model plan for our infrastructure for future.
Thank you for that. Al Sweeney from CHCH is back. Your question, Al, and who you're directing it to, please.
Ted, I'd like to direct this question to you, please. You've been around for a while, former Flamborough mayor, former MPP for this area. As it stands, all of the candidates sort of touch on what Watered Down doesn't have. Doesn't have a community center, doesn't have a police station. The bus service is inadequate. The community badly needs traffic improvement, but the Watered Down bypass right now is a road to nowhere. And as you say in your material, they've been talking about it since 1996, and it still hasn't happened. As one vote on the Hamilton Council, how are you going to get the city to cough up the money to fix some of these things? And is Watered Down getting a bad deal from Hamilton?
I think the perception in East Flamborough and Watered Down is that from a municipal perspective, the ward has been the flyover zone. It's been people relating, notwithstanding the best efforts of the current councillor, have been absent. We have such a horrendous fiscal problem. So Samara referenced 3.4 billion. By the way, that's a cumulative deficit. That's not revenue that's sitting there. That's something we've got to raise revenue to respond to first. That's very important. I think one of the things that will be really helpful would be to intentionally focus on bringing people together to build a stronger relationship with the two senior levels of government. The only two levels, by the way, that seem to have more money than they do responsibilities. Municipalities are hand-tied in many ways, so I'd want to work to engage the senior levels of government in helping with the infrastructure problems.
Candidate Para.
I believe you asked what it is that Watered Down does have, what the ward does have. You said we've been talking about what it doesn't have, but what it does have. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's an amazing place to live.
Amen.
We're projected to grow by 40,000 by 2030 at the latest. I think we're one of the better areas of Hamilton. I think we're one of the more attractive areas of Hamilton. And I think as Hamilton wants to bring in the types of people we need to grow our changing economy, the young families, the young professionals, the funding is going to have to come to our area because people want to come to our area. There's no use having an area, a ward like ours, if it's not going to be funded. It would be foolish. So I think in that growth, that's a reason right there that the rest of the city will provide us with the money because everyone benefits.
Candidate Jakar?
Joed,
sorry.
It's okay. Watered Down has waited for the bypass for 35 years. And I think in terms of the progress we had so far, We only have a portion that runs north to south from Parkside Drive to Dundas Street that's finished after a decade of waiting time. Even I was, I had to wait for my house for at least 5 years because I was stuck because of the environmental assessment as well. I think apart from that, there are portions of the bypass which will require a lot of land negotiations, and that can take several years now. So I do agree with Ted when he mentioned that there needs to be better relationship with all levels of government, and whoever is going to be the councillor coming into the Ward 15, I think that needs to be a very important thing, having excellent relationship with all levels of government and other stakeholders, and really working as a team to get this fixed, because this is really important. This is a safety concern for us now.
Candidate Para, you'd like to respond again?
Just one quick thing. I actually just noticed just the other day, the southern portion of the bypass has been completed, connecting Mountain Borough Road to Mill Street. It would have been nice, I don't know if that were better communicated. It does feel in our area like nothing's happening, but things are happening. I just think communication needs to be better as well.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, it's a great area, and it's easy to get down on the lack of things happening, but we're growing. There's so much to look forward to.
Definitely.
Candidate Wakar?
And I really appreciate that Chris highlight because we have to highlight the amount of work which has done this year by our current councillor. And I think we have to appreciate whatever is going on. But as Ted said, we have to move forward and we have to work with senior level government level plans and make that work together in future. So I really appreciate to highlight this again. Thank you.
Final word to you, if you wish. Candidate McMeekin.
Well, there seems to be an emerging shared sense of purpose here, which I want to celebrate. The reality is these aren't easy decisions, and they're not easy decisions because, frankly, the city doesn't have a pool of money that's easy to draw on. We don't have taxing authority. We can't run a deficit. The feds and the province have responded very nicely to the arc furnace down with the steel industry. And they talk a lot about climate change and what have you. I think we need to take advantage of the opportunity to build those relationships and be true partners in these important issues.
Mm-hmm. Thank you to all for those responses. We will now be going back to another viewer question that was submitted. And this one says, do you support a firm urban boundary, and will you defend Hamilton's decision not to expand if the province tries to overturn it? And I am seeing that this question is directed to start with to candidate Joette.
I guess to start off with, and I think Chris kind of highlighted that earlier, yes, we do have opportunities to grow within the community, but we have to develop responsibility. We have farmlands, we have green spaces. We need to protect all of those things. If we can do all of those things in a reasonable way and grow, that's fine. But again, before we do any of those stuff, we need to make sure that our road infrastructure is there before we continue having more growth happening within our community. I think I would kind of say three things in terms of priority, how we can potentially achieve this. First, I think, as I mentioned earlier, there needs to be a completion of the bypass to provide much needed traffic relief. Secondly, there needs to be partnership with all levels of government, because if we're growing, if we're going to have more housing, this is a national crisis, so obviously we need everybody. Thirdly, we need to promote mixed land use development to promote more affordable housing, and all of those can potentially support in terms of how we are going to grow responsibly.
Candidate Para.
Yeah, I absolutely support the urban boundary staying where it is. I think all around Canada, North America, really, we're seeing the issues associated with urban sprawl, where we have more people in cars for longer, causing more air pollution, just taking time out of our lives driving to and from. So expanding further doesn't really make a lot of sense. I think we need to densify. Also, if we're looking at things like transit, really you have to hit a critical mass of ridership before that makes sense fiscally. So spreading further and further and further out isn't going to address that issue. It's not going to help climate change. So we need to, I think, keep our boundaries where they are, build up, not out. And again, our ward is largely rural. I think we do over $1 billion in revenue with our agricultural sector in our ward alone every year. And pushing out into that doesn't make any sense.
Ted?
Well, thanks. That's a good point. The figure is actually just a bit over $2 billion. And just for the record, the agri-food industry is the largest contributor to Ontario's gross domestic product, $34 billion, and they employ 814,000 people. which is a lot. I think we need to stop talking about each other and to each other. You know, when the mayor says, I held a housing summit with all developers, that's not quite how it should work. I think we need to bring the ag sector together, the environmental sector together, all three levels of government together, the non-government agencies like Indwell to the table in a housing summit, and park our cell phones and our egos at the door and figure out a way to build the 3,000 badly needed rent geared to income housing units in this city. That can be done for about $1 billion if we can just get our act together, and I think it's time to work at getting that act together.
Candidate Duet, final word if you like.
I think we all kind of agreed on what we said in terms of, you know, we should keep the urban boundary where it is, but if we're planning to grow further, we need to make sure we can identify appropriate pockets to build responsibly. And obviously protecting our farmland, our agricultural land is going to be very important for us.
I'm seeing a lot of heads nodding around the table. Thank you to all those responses. It is time to move on to our question and answer section for our Ward 15 candidates. Thanks again to our media colleagues for participating, Al Sweeney and Mac Christie. It is time for the open forum, where candidates will have a minute to direct a question to another candidate. That candidate will then have a chance to respond, and then we will open up the floor for any further discussion. I will let you know if our time requires us to move on. We drew numbers ahead of our broadcast to determine the order for this segment. Zobia Jawed, you are up first. Your question and who you are directing it to, please.
My question is for you, Ted.
Okay.
It's time for a change at City Hall. This is a change election for Hamilton and for Waterdown and East Flamborough. Ted, why should the community vote for you when you do not represent change and don't even live here? What would you do differently this time around that you haven't already done as a career politician for decades?
I would respond by saying there's no best before date on public service. I grew up in a family that taught us that public service is not an option, it's an obligation. And I've been blessed to work and meet with many people to gain a lot of experience and a skill set that can be characterized as one of bringing people together to get things done. And my wife and I just became grandparents, and I really worry about the future of my little guy. Just to be crystal clear, I'm not looking for something to do. There's lots to do. I'm looking to do something, and a lot of somethings. And I've been around the community for a while. I've lived in the East Flamborough ward for 37 of the last 41 years. I've served 2 terms as mayor, 5 terms as MPP. I've stick-handled getting new schools and new parks into the area, and I've not run out of gas yet. I'm ready to go. And I just want to say to the good people who may be watching out there, I'm back and I want to help. I want to make a difference. Thanks.
If anybody would like to respond to that, they're welcome to. Otherwise, we will move on to the next candidate with their question. I'm seeing lots of smiles around the table here. Okay. Candidate Para, your question and who you're directing it to, please, and then it's open for discussion.
So this is kind of an open question to all the other candidates.
If you could pick one, please, and then it can be walked around.
Okay. How do you plan to build a sense of community when we have so many new people coming to the area every year? People of different ages, different backgrounds, different experiences, different beliefs. What would you do to bring them all together?
Great question. I would like to start with saying exactly what you said. We're becoming very multicultural. We're becoming very diverse. Therefore, we need diverse voices on the Hamilton City Council as well. Definitely, I do support having women in politics as well, because we want to see that as well. But I think some of the things that we talked earlier during our question and answer periods as well, we do need better communication. We need to engage our public more, so more surveys, more ways to engage them and collect information in terms of what they want, take more feedback, sharing more, celebrating things together, and really focusing on the key issues that we need to do together. I think one thing was very clear discussing with all of us today. We all love Waterdown. We all love East Flamborough. We all have families, and we all want a better future for our kids. So I think one thing is for sure, we have to make our community safe, and I think this is what I'm going to be working towards with the community, making it safe so we all can flourish together with our children.
Great.
Thank you.
Candidate McMeekin, you would like to continue with this conversation?
Yes, thanks. I want to reconfirm, and thank Councillor Partridge for setting up a community council. And I will maintain that if I have the privilege of serving as the ward councillor. I'd like to add 6 additional people to that council, and all of them should be newcomers to Waterdown. I think as difficult as the affinity with Hamilton is, there's a difficult with affinity within the community, and I think that's the essence of your question. I'd like to create 2 advisory committees, one on the agri-food industry and rural life, and the other on climate and the environment. I think the councillor's job is a full-time job, and I think we need to be at it. I think we can help in that regard. I intend, if elected, to open an office in the ward. If you leave the library on Dundas Street and travel to Hamilton, put money in the meter and walk into the mayor's office, it takes you 42 minutes. There should be an option for people to meet their councillor locally.
Candidate Parra, did you have a response to that?
I was wondering if I could answer my own question to a degree.
Feel free to, yes.
Please.
Okay, so what I think is paramount to creating community is shared experiences.
Yeah.
We're in a time, it's fractured. There's a lot of my team, your team,
Yep.
It's our team. You create a community by doing things together, by sharing experiences, and by being in the same place. I'd like to create a rec center in Waterdown that people from the ward can go to. Ties in earlier, it'd be great if we could have transit up to Carlisle so that the kids up there can come down to the rec center as well. And I think when you get people from disparate areas, different backgrounds in the same place, playing on a team, doing swimming lessons, taking classes together, just being in the same space, suddenly they're not a them, it's an us. And I think we need space to do that. We need space to share, and space where there's not a high entry fee or a high cost that only some people can come into. So I'd like to create that space. I know there's issues with funding. We do have capital funds, and then there's also the I'd like to do with a mixture of funding from the city, private partnerships or sponsorships, and you can apply for funding through the Community Culture and Recreation Infrastructure stream of the Investing in Canada infrastructure program.
Yep.
But yeah.
Candidate Wakar?
I would like to go back to the original topic about diversity, and I would say that whoever become a leader, they have to treat all residents with respect and dignity, and they have to bring good governance and inspire others through their vision, their equitable approach, their evidence-based decision to better serve all Hamiltonian. And like Ted mentioned, and I hope like all the other candidates would agree, we have to have like collaborative approach towards building the community, because Waterdown is getting more diverse, and we have to build more recreation centers, more community centers, so that people can connect to each other easily. And we have to be really approachable. Whoever wants to talk to the counselor, and I really appreciate our current counselor is very approachable, and whoever bring this position, they have to be really accessible and approachable to the community.
Thank you for that. Like to continue that conversation?
Yeah, I just want to pick up on, I agree completely with Chris about a multi-purpose recreation center. 20 years ago, Flamborough was in a similar position. I created a mayor's task force on human services. There were 3 priorities came back. One was the need for a multi-purpose recreation center, and we partnered with the Y. One was for park space, and we engineered the Joe Sam's Park, and the other was for a new long-term care facility. I think it's time to do that kind of review again. The very first item that I would ask to put on the community council agenda is the feasibility of a multi-purpose recreational facility. Because I agree we need opportunities to bring people together, and that's a great way to do it, as one who grew up in the YMCA.
Yeah.
Thanks to all for responding, and thank you very much for the question. With our next question, it's going to be coming from candidate Ted McMeekin. Your question, who you're directing it to, please, sir.
Well, I want to direct it to my 2 worthy female opponents.
Can you pick one to start, and then
Sure,
the other can respond?
Samaria.
Thank you.
Samara, sorry. I want to first applaud both of you. I know you've done some incredible work in education, and I've had a lifelong interest in education. I served 4 different ministers of education as parliamentary assistant and did a lot of work to bring schools together, and I think there were 9 schools I played some role in. You two have done some extraordinary work, and I don't think there are people in our community who know very much about that. I'd like you both to take a couple of minutes to talk about the good work you're doing and why it's been so important to you.
Thank you, Ted, to giving me an opportunity to tell my board members about more of my work. So basically, my work is like a community support worker, and I've been working in region of Halton since past 8 years, and I'm helping families in need, especially the newcomer families, and also families with young children. And I've been working with them and building the relationship with the parent and child, and also let them know about what the community is, what they are like experiencing as a new immigrant in Canada, and if they are Canadian citizen, how they can build a relationship with their kids and the community if they don't have time to do that. So basically, I'm actually engaging them through my program to the community members, and that's a non-profitable organization. And also, I've been working with Hamilton Police since 5 years in Victim Service Branch, and I'm a team leader now. And by working with this big Hamilton Police, I have learned like it is very important to give back to the community where we live in. And the second thing is I'm working in a school council for many years since I was new to Canada. I'm really lucky to have that mom. She introduced me how important it is to involve in kids' school. And since then, I've been working with that. And volunteer work is always an ongoing process in Waterdown. Since I was moving in Waterdown, that's what I'm doing like so far.
Thank you.
Thanks for that response. The question has also been directed to you, candidate Joette.
Thank you so much, Ted. That's a wonderful question to get to know us. I would say that because I'm associated with Hamilton for 30 years. I've been living and working in Hamilton. Both my kids were raised here as well. I've been working with McMaster University for a while now. One of the key things that I do with McMaster University is I try to solve complex community problems, and they're ranging from infrastructure challenges, either it could be water, wastewater systems. Many times I've also been dealing with other sort of issues as well, from pandemic response to climate change as well. So I've been very much engaged with the stakeholders that are from Hamilton, trying to find innovative solutions to our problems. I've also been associated with quite a few number of other organizations within Hamilton. To name a few, I work with Hamilton Children's Aid Society as a board of director. I also sit in Healthy Youth Network, which is an organization that's run by Penny Deeth here from Waterdown as well. So I sit in quite a few different organizations, and my experience have been very diverse over time. I've been working with provincial government for a while as well. I work with an arm's length from City of Hamilton as well, and quite a diverse experience, both in terms of engineering and working with communities solving their problems. So thank you so much for the opportunity, Ted.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ted, do you have a final word?
Well, I'm just so proud of all 3 of my opponents who have shown up to show that they care and love our city and our community. And whichever one of us has the good fortune to emerge on October 24th, I'm confident that we'll be in good hands. So thank you all for that. And I hope it's me, but this is a democracy, and we have to trust that the voters know what they're doing, and I do trust them with that. So thank you all.
I see candidate Wakar, you'd like to say another
I just
word?
want to add on Ted's comments about whoever will be a counselor. I think still in future we have to work together, because all of us on the table have really great ideas, and that can contribute to the future counselor in future.
I hope all 3 of you, if we have a community council, will want to join it and offer your expertise.
Thank you.
That'd be awesome.
Thank you all very much for those responses and comments. Our next question now will be coming from Sumaira Wakar. Your question, who you're directing it to, please.
It's hard for me to choose which candidate I have to ask this question, but I choose Ted.
Okay.
Accessibility has been a hot topic in Ward 15, especially for playgrounds. While the AOD Accessibility for Ontarians and with Disability Act 2005 speaks to reasonable ground coverage, we find much has been the ground coverage choice at Ward 15 playground. Residents can travel to other areas of Hamilton or Burlington for properly accessible park, but where is our voice for Ward 15? How are you planning to fix this in future?
And we will open that up to all candidates if they wish, but
Yes.
we will start with you, candidate McMeekin.
Well, I think we need to make sure that existing laws and protections are enforced. There are requirements around parks and homes and buildings and such that sometimes aren't adhered to as carefully as they should be. Over the years, I've been engaged in this particular issue and have done some traveling around the province to expedite changes, and have worked with some pretty wonderful people, notably in the Legislative Assembly. And I think that work needs to continue. And when it comes to this issue, we need to all be first responders. We need to be aware of the issues. When we see something that's happening that isn't right, we need to speak up about it. And we need to do case to cause advocacy. If we can find a solution to a problem, let's make sure we pass bylaws and other regulations so that the benefits of having solved that problem can accrue to others. That's a fundamental responsibility I think any one of us is going to have.
Thank you for that. Who else did you want to direct that question to?
I can start with her if she wants to share her
Zobia,
comment.
would you like to?
Sure. I think I agree with Ted. I think you kind of mentioned most of the point, but I think accessibility to parks and buildings and other services within the community needs to be looked after. And I think, as you mentioned, that we need to identify where the problems are. We need to put the teams together, really identify how to solve those problems, bring budget, right? We need to have funding for all of those things. So I think it's going to become a priority for us to start thinking about how to make things accessible and really make sure that we have funding to support all of those initiatives and bring those things that needs to make things accessible for our community.
Well said.
Thank you.
Candidate Para?
Yeah, I mean, there's not really a lot to be said beyond that. We're just in an enviable situation, I guess, where because we are growing, we don't have to go back and fix everything. We can build properly the first way. Like Ted said, there are laws on this. It's already been done. It's not the first time this has come up. So it's important that laws are enforced. It's important that these things are actually done properly.
Thank you for that. And it looks like everyone has exhausted that topic. Thank you very much to each of you. We truly do appreciate you coming in. And again, putting your name on that ballot. I know it probably was not an easy decision, but onward and upward, and good luck to all of you on the campaign trail, and best of luck on October the 24th. Unfortunately, with that said, our time with our candidates, it has run out. Once again, they are Zobia Jawed, Robert Kunish, who did not respond to multiple invitations from us, candidate Ted McMeekin, candidate Chris Para, and candidate Sumera Wakar. Hamilton, this concludes our Ward 15 debate. Remember, it's our Hamilton and our vote. And Election Day, it is fast approaching, October 24th, as I mentioned earlier. You can find everything that you need to know, including a list of all of the candidates running for City Council, as well as the public and Catholic school boards on the City of Hamilton website, all located at hamilton.ca/elections. Please, I can't stress this enough. I've said it 14 times. I'm going to say it for my 15th time. Please get out and vote, whether in person or by mail-in ballot. And join us that evening for all your local election results. Hamilton, this concludes our ward councillor debates here on Cable 14. We will be back on Tuesday, September the 27th, with a 90-minute mayoral debate beginning at 7 p.m. Before we close off, a very special thank you to all the candidates who have participated in these debates and this series. As well, thank you to our colleagues at the Hamilton Spectator, CHML, and the rest of the media. Your participation and collaboration are wonderful. And CHCH, Al Sweeney, hey, you're a gem, my friend. Finally, to our amazing production crew who have worked so hard over the past 2 weeks to deliver all of these debates to you, and really they've been working months in advance. Our viewers, congratulations on a job well done. I'm Mike Fortune. Thanks for joining us. Have a great weekend, and make sure you stick around as the Mayor's Retrospective is coming up next. Tuesday night, September 27th, the mayoral debate live right here on Cable 14. We'll see you then, Hamilton. Get your phones out, Hamilton. Scan the QR code on your screen to take you directly to cable14.com, where you can find out about our shows, see our TV schedule, learn about our hosts, and so much more.
When an impaired driver killed my brother DJ, my life changed forever. During the pandemic, all of our lives changed, and many of us turned to alcohol and drugs to cope. As life returns to normal, the increase in substance use from COVID has lingered, and some police services report an increase in impaired driving that caused heartbreak and devastation. Now, more than ever, we need your commitment to never drive impaired.